Welcome, welcome, welcome. I greet you. Welcome back to the Semaj MindSpa, where mind, spirit, and science meet. I want to thank you for choosing to spend some time because this is critical that we have these kinds of deep dive conversations. Um, it's never enough. It's never enough, but we do it as frequently as we can, and we want to give thanks for our friends at Fit FM, very important space, Fit FM. So you can link on the FM band, but even more importantly, fitfmja.com, the World Wide Web, where we can always be at your disposal. Now, I want to start today with a simple but uncomfortable question. If you're over 50, listen to me right now. You're in your car, you're in your kitchen, on your veranda. I'll ask you a direct question. When did you last experience an advertiser speaking to you? Not at you, not past you, but to you. When last did an event flyer make you say, "Ooh, that one's for me, man. I got to go to that. They're talking to me." If you're struggling to remember, you are not alone. And today, we're going to talk about why and what it is costing all of us. We're calling this the cost of ignoring the over 50 in the marketplace. Like we don't exist as far as they're concerned. So let's begin talk about this invisible majority. Now, let me paint a picture because I know it well. I have lived it. Another big holiday weekend, another wave of advertisement and social media promotions and parties and shows and festival, all built for the 18 to 35 crowd. Dance all nights, foam fetes, drinks inclusive, beach rave, all white edition, shorts edition. And where in all of that is the invitation for those of us whose taste has matured? Where? For those of us who dance to the originals, who in some cases made them, who built the very institutions this country runs on, and who now finally have both the time and the resources to enjoy ourselves. We are not in the room. We are not on the flyer. We are not in the media plan. And it's not only entertainment. Walk into a bank. Look at the photographs on the wall, the promotions for the new loan products. Turn on television. Count how many times a face over 50 appears, not as a grandparent in a diaper commercial, but as a vibrant, desirable customer in their own right. Scroll social media and notice how the algorithm and the advertisers who pay for it have decided that 50 is where relevance ends. This is not accident, folks. This is a pattern, and a pattern built by choice. Media houses choose their programming. Advertisers choose their targeting. Marketers choose their language. Event planners choose their music, their venues, their ticket prices, their hours. I'm going to share a couple of stories with you as we go through this. Let me just share one right here. Some years ago, I was a judge for a mojito contest. All the top bartenders in Jamaica were involved in this mojito contest. It was being held at Iberia Star. It was being held in the nightclub, in the daytime. And there were a host of bartenders there. And you had to produce one original mojito And then 2, you could create what you want to do with it. Now, in between the presentations and so on, the resident DJ was playing music. And he was playing all kind of house music and hip hop music and some of the current dancehall music. So in the next break, I went over to him and I said, boss, do you know what a mojito contest is? A mojito is? But me, I know what mojito, some kind of drink. And I gave him the history of mojito. So wouldn't it make sense that the music that you're playing complements the event? But we don't have them kind of music there. Give me a minute. This was in the era of iPods. In the break, I ran to my room and I brought my iPod back. And I asked for a jack and I plugged in. And for the rest of the day, I burned down the place. From Celia Cruz, you know, back and forth in terms of different merengue, you know, Cuban music, Latin music, salsa, to complement the concept. The DJ had never heard any of those songs before. Of course, once I plugged in and I decided to rock the house, it turned into a party. The judges were up and dancing in between and so on. No? That's how many times people have a narrow view of what entertainment is about. So we ask about the media houses. How many programs do they have? Where the target audience are people 50 and over. And we're not just talking about old people, or you can do this for old people and for the senior citizen. We're talking about vibrant people. And over, the choice has been the same. Chase the young. Let the mature fend for themselves. Listen, folks, the anchor leg of a relay is not run by the weakest athletes. It's run by the one the team trusts most to bring it home. That's who we are. I call this the anchor leg. It stretches from 50 onwards. Where you are not slowing down, you are steadying the run. And yet the marketplace treats the anchor leg generation as if we have already crossed the finish line and gone home. Here's what makes this more an oversight. It's a strategic failure. By the end of this decade, folks, roughly 1 in 6 people on this planet will be over 60. So start getting used to that. Jamaica is aging too. Our own median age has been climbing for years. Our birth rate is falling. Our life expectancy is rising. The over 50 population here is not a shrinking footnote. It's a growing, permanent, well-resourced share of this market. And yet still, the events say 18 to 35. The bank ads say young professionals starting you out. The insurance ads say young families. The entertainment says stamina, not sophistication. We're not asking anyone to program a senior citizen social with fluorescent light and the early bird supper. In that we don't know. We're asking for quality, live music we actually enjoy. An elegant room, a cultural sophistication that respects our energy, our taste, and most of all, our wallets. We can pay for it. We want to dance also. We want to dine well. We want to celebrate, not just necessarily with our grandchildren in tow. No. The marketplace is ignoring a market that is hiding in plain sight. Now, in the next segment, I want to put some real numbers to that, because the moment you see buying power of the over 50 next to the buying power of the under 50, the whole conversation changes. They don't understand this? Let me give you an example. Some years ago, we used to have this Jazz and Blues Festival in Jamaica. It was a wonderful event. There was a group of us. we go down to Montego Bay for the weekend. Here's what we loved about this show. Shows started about 8 o'clock. Decent time. There were about 3 or 4 main acts. There were some side acts on the small stage, but the show was finished by 1 o'clock. Decent time. Now, that is when many of the other shows that they promote and advertise are actually getting started. 8 to 1, you can leave, get a full night's sleep, and the group of us, we were up by 7 in the morning, and for every day, we played a different golf course in the Montego Bay area. By 1 o'clock, we were at the beach. 3 o'clock or so, got a little nap, just to revive ourselves for the evening. 8 o'clock, we're back in the park. It was a wonderful. Now, I tell people that I can't afford to go to stage shows now. We're not talking about you can't afford the money, What I'm talking about, I can't afford the drain on my time and person. Most shows, even when they say gates open at 8, the show don't start till midnight. The main acts don't come on till 2 o'clock in the morning. The shows go on till 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock. You're crawling out of there. Most of them, you're standing all night. Or if you brought a chair, at some point you fall asleep. But the reality is that your next day mash up. So when I tell people I can't afford to go to a stage show because it's going to cost me a whole night's sleep and my next day of productivity is gone. No artist is worth that of my life. All right? So let's talk about why it is important, the buying power, looking at the under 50 and the over 50. Why we are a market that you can't continue to ignore. The over 50 market is hiding in plain sight. Let me show you exactly how much of this hiding is. Globally, adults 50 and over already control the majority of consumer spending. No? Adults 50 and over controls the majority of consumer spending. Well over half of all household purchase in the economies, when you measure this carefully. In the US, for example, the 50 plus population now drives more than half of all consumer spending. And that share is projected to keep climbing upwards, roughly 60% within the next couple of decades. Worldwide, the 50 plus generation already accounts for something in the order of a third of global economic output and around half of global consumer spending. In some, in the tens of trillions of dollars. Now, hold that number next to this one. Only a small single-digit % of marketing budgets, by most industry estimate, somewhere around 5 to 10% is aimed at this group 50 and over. Should I repeat that? Only a single-digit % of marketing budgets, by most industry estimate, around 5 to maximum 10% is aimed at this group. The group doing the majority of the spending is receiving a tiny fraction of the marketing attention. Why does this happen? There are reasons for this. Because buying power is not just about income, it's about accumulated wealth. We 50 and over, to a large extent, many paid off the mortgages already. Matured investments, children who have left the house, taking their expenses with them. Decades of financial decision finally bearing fruit. The under 50 consumers, generally speaking, is still building, paying down debt, saving towards the first house, absorbing the cost of young children. The over 50 consumer, generally speaking, has already built. The house is paid for or close to it. What is left is often discretionary, money that can be used towards travel, health, leisure, entertainment, and yes, the VIP table at shows. In Jamaica, think about who actually owns the property, who holds the pension, who has the paid up insurance policy, who is spending money and sending money home from the diaspora, and who is receiving it and managing it here. Who sponsors the church building fund? Who sponsors the school reunion and the community event? It is rarely the 25-year-olds. It is very often the 55, the 60, the 65 and older. And here's the part that should make every marketer sit up. The over 50 consumer is not just spending. They are spending in categories with real staying power. Health, wellness, food and beverage, housing, home comfort, travel. Increasingly, technology. Because let us dismiss once and for all the myth that older people do not use their phones or do not shop online. That myth is costing business money every single day. Compare that now to the under 50 market, particularly the younger end of it, the 18 to 35 bracket. So much of our advertisers are chasing. That group has real spending too, but is often more fragile, tied to a single income, stretched by rent, still years away from that discretionary cushion the 50 plus consumers already enjoy. And yet, that is the group getting the lion's share of the ad spend. The event calendar, the media coverage. So let's be honest about the arithmetic. If you are a business and you are chasing a smaller pool of more fragile spending while ignoring the larger pool of more durable spending, that's not a youth-focused strategy. That's a strategic error, an expensive one. You need to wake up. But money is only half of the picture. The other half is who actually makes the decision to spend on it. That's where we go next. You understand that? The decision-making comparison. So let's talk about decision-making, because this is where the psychology meets economics. When a 25-year-old makes a purchase, that decision is often made alone, made quickly, and made under the influence of a trend, a peer group, or worse, an algorithm. Nothing's wrong with that. It is developmentally appropriate. When young adults, in a season of exploration and trying, all following the crowd, a little to find out who you are outside of the crowd. But the 50 plus decision maker operates differently. And any good marketer, any good event planner needs to understand this difference if they want our business. First, the over 50 consumer is often the final decision maker for more than just themselves. We're not just deciding what we will buy. We are frequently deciding or heavily influencing what our adult children will buy, what our grandchildren will receive, what the family car will be, where the family will vacation, which school the grandchildren will attend, which insurance the household will carry. In psychology, we sometimes call this, we are the gatekeepers. In many Jamaican households, the 50 plus figure, often a grandmother or a father who built the family foundation, is exactly that gatekeeper. Secondly, our decision-making trends tends to be most deliberate. We call this crystallized intelligence. The wisdom that deepens with age, built from decades of pattern recognition and lived experience. It means we are less likely to be swept up by a flashy advertisement and more likely to ask, is this actually worth it? Marketers read this deliberateness as difficulty, as if we are hard to convince. I'd reframe that. We are not hard to convince. We are simply not interested in being fooled. You can fool the young people, but you can't fool us. Convince us with substance, and we are remarkably loyal customers, often for life, and often across an entire extended family network, because we tell people what works. Thirdly, and this is important for event planners specifically, our decision to attend something is rarely impulsive. A 25-year-old might see a flyer at 9 at night and be at the party by 11. And that's how we roll. We plan. We consider the venue. We consider the safety. We consider the parking. Many times, I don't go places because I realize that there is no plan for parking. We consider the hours. Who else is going? Whether it respects our time and our dignity. This is not resistance to fun. It's a more considered relationship with fun. Give us the right advance notice, the right information, the right respect, and we will show up. And we will bring friends, and we will buy the good seats. Fourthly, and marketers really talk about this, our decisions are less driven by fear of missing out and more driven by genuine desire for meaning. A 25-year-old buys the ticket primarily because everyone else is going. A 60-year-old buys the ticket because the music genuinely moves them, because the evening genuinely restores something in them, because they have decided consciously that this is how we want to spend our evening and our money at this stage of life in the anchor leg, where health, travel, and meaning have become priority. The decision, once won, tends to stay won. So we know that you provide an event that caters to us, you got us. So when we put the two side by side, a younger market that decides quickly, individually, and often under social pressure, against an older market that decides deliberately, often for an entire family network, and increasingly in pursuit of meaning rather than just trends, the second market is not hard to reach. It is more valuable market to reach because the decision, once won, tends to stay. So, if the over 50 market has the money and makes deliberate loyal choices, why does the marketplace still obsess over youth? I need to try and explain that to you because this makes absolutely no sense. If it's about money, it's about money. Why they obsess with youth? You see it in all the programs on television, all the programs on radio, all the events being put on. What is being missed? Why does an entire industry keep chasing a market that spends less, decides less deliberately, and is harder to retain, while overlooking a market that spends more, decides more deliberately, and easier to keep? I believe there are several reasons, and I want to walk through them honestly, because some of them are more about the marketers than about the market. Firstly, nostalgia bias inside the industry itself. Many of the people making advertising and events decisions are themselves young or trained in a culture that equates cool with young. They build campaigns that appeal to themselves or to who they wish they were. We had the same problem in some years in terms of making of websites, where many of the people who were making websites, they were making websites for themselves and for their colleagues. So in terms of the fonts they used, the images they used did not appeal to older people. Some have learned their lessons. Secondly, the myth of brand loyalty formation. There's a long-standing belief in marketing that you must capture a customer young on the theory that their brand habits, once formed, will follow them for life. There is some truth in this for certain categories, but it has been dramatically over-applied. It ignores something we already discussed. The over 50 consumer is often more loyal, not less, once genuinely won over, because we do not switch on a whim. Thirdly, the discomfort with aging itself. Let's be honest. The wider society, or society included, still treat aging as decline rather than as arrival. If a marketer secretly associates 50 plus with slowing down, with fading out, with becoming invisible, they will build campaigns that make the population invisible without ever consciously deciding to discriminate. This is not always malicious. It's often simply unexamined bias. The quiet assumption that life excitement ends at 40. How wrong can they be? Fourthly, the herd instinct of the advertising and event industry. Once a few big players decide the youth market is where the growth is, everyone else follows because no one wants to be the one running the boring campaign. It becomes a self-reinforcing loop. Chase youth because everyone is chasing youth, even as the data quietly shows otherwise. Fifthly, and this one is uncomfortable, a subtle form of ageism in the culture. Ageism in the culture and creativity itself. Advertising, event planning, and entertainment programming in many circles considered a young industry. The people staffing them are often young. And so, without any deliberate cruelty, they build for the world they know. And the 50 plus market simply does not occur to them as an audience worth designing for. I deliberately designed the Semaj MindSpa for the second half of life. And when I take a look at the demographics that I have, 80% of my audience are over 35. Over 35. 80%. Because I create a situation where the issues, the examples, we're not chasing trends. I keep saying that when we touch 800,000 views without any dancing cats or no clickbait, it means that there are people out there who want substance. I've proven it. So when the young people, without deliberate cruelty, they're building for the world that they know. And the 50 plus market simple does not occur to them as an audience worth designing for. None of this is about condemning anyone. As I say, I do not write or speak to condemn. I speak to stimulate thinking. So that if persons start to think about this now, maybe things will happen. But thinking requires honesty. And the honest answer to why the obsession with youth is this. It is comfortable. It is familiar. It fits a decade-old assumption about brand loyalty. And it quietly reflects a discomfort with aging that our whole society still needs to outgrow. I remember when I was in radio, there was a program on a particular station a jazz program, a 1 hour jazz program that was from midnight to 1 o'clock. And there was a struggle to keep that program on. Scan across Jamaican radio. Huh? Say the afternoon session. It's as if every station in Jamaica is catering to the same audience in the afternoon session. Does that mean that everybody in the afternoon want to hear dancehall music? What about the rest of us? It's almost embarrassing. I was asked to do some work for a radio station many, many years ago. This station operated out of Mandeville. And it was a station that, when they first decentralized the radio stations, and this station was focused on, a rural audience base and so on. And what the general manager wanted me to do is to do a program so as to help the on-air staff understand that, and I quote, "You are not Barry Gordon trying to entertain some St. Hugh students standing up at Crossroad waiting for the bus. Your target is very different." And what I did, I took photographs of people in central Manchester, farmers, people in the market, people in the field, people in the shop piazza, people in the shop having some conversation. And I put those photographs on the wall of the studio so as to remind the on-air persons who you're talking to. So that everyone is trying to cater to the same group. The same group. And that's the group with the lowest level of spending money. So if we are to be honest, we need to find a way to change this. The cost of this obsession is what we have titled the entire program, the cost of ignoring the over 50 in the marketplace. And there's a real cost. It's paid in lost revenue, lost loyalty, and lost goodwill. Every single day that this market continues to be overlooked, every single day there's a cost and there's a loss. So where do you go from here? Let's look at the future of the 50+ market. What do we do? What can be done about it to make sure that we're not wasting our time? And I've been saying this I've been hinting at this, but the reality is that it has to be treated differently, so that I'm in a situation now whereby we can do something about it. And I want to make sure that I use my radio program to address this, and I will do things to benefit from it, just to make sure. So that, what do we do now? Why do advertisers ignore them? And we gave the reasons. They're young. They create advertisements for people who look like them. Ageism, growing older, is a threat and a failure, right? So that the idea of this lost opportunity. Now imagine Jamaica deliberately serving that over 50 market. What would happen? New businesses would emerge. How about retirement communities? Healthy restaurant, walking clubs, brain fitness center, travel clubs, learning academies, dating services, fitness program, financial planning, technology coaching, luxury transport, cultural tourism, medical tourism, home modification services, wellness retreat. The market is enormous. Yet most businesses never see it. So it's about time now that they start the kind of products that would fit into this category that this segment of the market is interested in. It's about time. What we're talking about, what kind of products we're talking about? Premium nutrition, mobility aids without any stigma, wellness technology, travel, healthcare, but entertainment. And let's be specific about that. Entertainment specifically. Why are nearly all concert designs around 20-year-olds? Where are the jazz festivals? I remember a colleague of mine who's he's a musician, but he also plays jazz. And he indicated that he believes it's about the Jamaican marketplace for jazz is probably less than 500 people. That's straight up jazz. But if you marry that with R&B, because many people say that Jamaica is an R&B culture, is a ballad culture, that goes to 5,000. So that straight jazz, 500, jazz plus R&B. So that was probably the model about the jazz and R&B festival was built around. And that market does exist. But where are the jazz festivals? If we don't, I remember when this one station had a 1-hour program for jazz. Jamaica now have over 30 radio stations. But interesting that the radio stations are falling like flies because the programming is all the same. Narrow. Maybe coming out of this, some will wake up and hear the options. Now, where are the wine evenings? Where are the book festivals? Do you understand how big Calabash became? In a context where it said Jamaicans not reading and so on and all of that. I was one of the few persons that went to the first 10 Calabash festivals. I was at the very first one. And at the end of the weekend, I booked my room for the next one. And I did that every year. And on top of that, I would book 2 rooms. And every year, there's always a colleague of mine or a friend who just hearing about Calabash for the first time, I would gift them a room. No, Calabash is now every other year. And it's just in Treasure Beach. Proven. It works. The model worked. Right? It was built around largely books, reading. Over time, they threw in some other activities. And apparently, this is one way of trying to sort of meet the local population halfway. But we can find ways of doing this. Book festival. Where are the dance evening for the 50-plus adults? I mean, a dance evening focused around categories of music and styles that clearly targeting people 50 and over. So it is starting at a decent time and it done at a decent time. So you can go to your yard. Where are the luxury cinema experiences? Where are the educational travel? Where are the MindSpa retreats? But don't worry about that. We're working on that. So you MindSpa, mind travelers, we're planning the MindSpa retreats. So we will have MindSpa theme retreats, big people business. There's an underserved audience looking for experiences that respects them, respects that their stage of life and they are old, but they appreciate a lot much more. Their interest has evolved. That's the reality. And we have to start recognizing that. It only makes sense. Now, what's the future? Here's the thing that marketers and event planners need to understand. The over 50 market is not a passing trend to catch up to. This is the direction of the entire demographic curve. That's where the demographic curve is heading to permanently. Life expectancy continues to rise. Birth rate continues to fall. And Jamaica, as is most of the world, same thing. That means that the proportion of the population that is over 50 is not going to shrink back down. In fact, it's going to keep growing for decades to come. The businesses that build genuine relationship with this market now are not chasing a moment. What they're doing, they're positioning themselves for the next 30 years. This generation coming into the 50 plus bracket now is not the same as the 50 plus generation 40 years ago. We are more educated on average than any generation over 50 before. Many of us have already lived through multiple careers, multiple reinventions. We have traveled more. We're more digitally connected, and that's very important. We expect more. We are not grateful merely to be included. We expect to be respected. And increasingly, we have the resource to take our business elsewhere when we're not. The future of this market then has a few clear features. It will be more digital, not less. The idea that the over 50 consumer avoids technology is largely outdated and getting more outdated by the year. The future 50 plus consumer will shop online, book online, review businesses online, and expect a seamless digital experience just as much as their children do. Perhaps with even less patience for clumsy websites, because we have less patience generally for wasting our time. It will be more health and longevity focused, wellness and fitness, preventive care, mental health, cognitive vitality. These are not niche interests for the 50 plus market. They are central to how this generation intend to spend the next 30 or 40 years of life. We're in for the duration. The anchor leg is not a countdown to the finish. It's a redesign of what a good life looks like. It will be more experience-driven than possession-driven. Travel, live music, fine dining, cultural event, learning experiences. The future 50 plus consumer, having already accumulated possession, we don't want no more, increasingly wants memories and meanings rather than more things. Huh? The anchor leg is not a countdown to the finish. It's a redesign of what a good life looks like. You check my MindSpa blog. There was an article I did recently where I point out that the most important area of your life is the last 30 years. Think about it, the last 30 years. Because that last 30 years, it includes what we largely call the whole retirement period, where you are on your own. It is up to you to design it. Design how you want it to be. Because you can now create, and this is a whole different thing. So the future belongs to companies that are able to make sense of this and understand what happens in this category. What are we talking about? Every society is aging. Again, birth rate is declining. This is not temporary. This is the future. The successful business of tomorrow will not ask, how young is our customer? They will ask, what stage of life are they navigating? That is smarter psychology. That is smarter marketing. That is smarter economics. A population that ages. Well, what happens? Researchers increasingly describe this now as the silver economy. That's a word for it now, the silver economy, as a long-term structural opportunity, emphasizing inclusive design, accessibility, emotional connection, and advocacy rather than youth-focused messaging alone. So it's a different kind of world. And advertisers really need to step up, really need to understand that it's a different world altogether. And, you know, the response that I have gotten to just sharing these ideas, it's incredible. It shows that more and more people are coming to see the reality. The business that win the future market were the ones who stop designing senior products with beige packaging and small print, and instead design elegant, sophisticated offerings that simply happen to suit a mature clientele. The same instinct that says, give us live music and the elegant ambience, not a bingo hall. For Jamaicans specifically, I believe the future belongs to whoever builds the infrastructure now. The venues, the travel packages, the wellness facilities, the financial products, genuinely designed with the anchor-leg generation in mind, rather than retrofitting from a youth campaign at the last minute. Now, let's get practical. If you're listening to this and you plan events, you sell products, you design services, what exactly should you be building? So let's give you some more hint. By now, you should understand how to target the 50+ market with the products and the service and the facilities and the entertainment. Let me now provide some, again, practical directions to the marketer, to the entrepreneur, the event planner listening right now who's all ready to stop leaving money on the table. On products, again, what I say, think health, think comfort, think elegance, and put these all together, not separately. You know, what I've noticed that some people have been hinting at either a bus service that leaves Kingston and takes you to a designated area with the seats already identified, and the bus will leave at a specific designated time, taking you back to Kingston to where your cars are parked. Seamless process. You pay more, but you're paying for a package. You're paying for an experience. And it is more than worth it. But if the marketer, the event planner, is just chasing the young people dollars, no, that's not something they want to get caught up in. Nutritional products designed for real midlife and latter life needs, not condescending senior brands. Skincare and grooming that speaks to vitality and confidence, not decline. Home comfort products, good mattress, ergonomic furniture, quality kitchen equipment, bought once, bought well, because this market values durability over disposability. Financial products built around legacy, estate planning, steady growth rather than aggressive risk. Because we are protecting what we built, not gambling to build it. On services, this is enormous and mostly untouched. What we're talking about, concierge health and wellness services. Just think about it. There's a major space in Jamaica. Our public health system is questionable. Then at the other extreme, the private facility, there's a large segment. Older people with more discretionary income, where are the facilities for them? The other day I had to do a imaging, digital imaging, and my thing said 10 o'clock. So when I went in there for 10 o'clock, I realized that half of the people in the room were given the same time. I said, folks, this is arms house. Obviously, you have no respect for people's time. Give everybody the same. So that too many Jamaicans have put up with slackness, with arms house for too long. So you come and you just sit and wait to be. We have to sit and wait to be called. I said, no, I am paying my money. Well, that's how we do it here. So I learned. I never went back to that place again. Travel spanning specifically built around comfort, accessibility, and cultural richness rather than just, everybody bungled up like sardine, like you put the back of a market truck. Because time is valuable for us. We don't have the time to waste. We want to make the most and the best use of our time. Financial and retirement planning service that treat us as sophisticated clients, not as some checker box. You just check a box before the will is written. And frankly, psychological and life coaching services, helping people to navigate the anchor leg itself. The identity question of who am I now that the career is ended, or the parenting, or both have changed shape. On facilities, Jamaica is wide open here. Again, wellness retreats and day spas built for restoration, not just relaxation. Fitness facilities with programming genuinely designed around joint health, strength retention, longevity, not simply scaled down version of a 25-year-old gym class. Co-working or social clubs for the retired but not tired, giving structure and community to a stage of life that too often get treated as empty time. Housing, genuinely elegant, accessible, community-oriented living options for those ready to downsize without downgrading the quality of their life. Just think of what so many of the developers are. I get the impression that 90% of the new housing stock is luxury houses, luxury villas, luxury apartments, and so on. What about the rest of us who have done our time? We just want a comfortable place. That's all we want. I remember when my mother, who had worked for about 30 years in the US, was planning to come home. And she wanted me to get a 3-bedroom unit for her. It was hard. She wanted everything on one floor because back then the whole rave, and probably just makes sense now, for when they were building townhouses, they were building the bedrooms upstairs and just the living and dining downstairs. And my mother, she'd rather not have to go up a set of stairs. I searched and searched and searched, and eventually I found one development that had 3-bedroom units on the first floor. 3-bedroom units on the first floor. The second and third floors were duplexes, whereby the second floor unit had living and dining, and then you went upstairs to the bedroom. But who is thinking and planning? And if you think of now the persons coming home, the bulk of Jamaicans who are wanting to return, they don't have the money to return home to no luxury villa. They want a comfortable community that persons are within walking distance of each other, and community facilities, and preferably healthcare facilities and services too. But who's building for that? Who is? Entertainment, I want to close right where I opened. Holiday weekend, nothing for the older people. We want live music nights featuring the artists and the genres that shaped us. And I promise you, we will fill the room. And we will not need convincing to buy the VIP table. You put together a package. And no, we're not just talking about, say, for argument's sake, a Beres Hammond in a big environment for thousands of people all standing. How about someone of the quality of a Beres Hammond in an environment that the package includes dinner? So it's a smaller group and it's a complete show. There are persons who want that and will pay for that. Elegant dinner and show formats with real seating, real acoustics, and an entire time that respects the fact that we still have somewhere to go in the morning. Cultural events, theater, jazz, poetry, heritage celebration, genuinely marketed to us, not simply tolerated because we happen to buy a ticket. Travel and entertainment packages that combine the two. A cruise, a retreat, a cultural tour built around good company, good music, good conversation. The businesses that build these things and market them directly, respectfully, and consistently to the 50-plus Jamaican will not just be chasing a niche. They will be serving the majority of the wealth, the majority of the deliberate decision makers, and a rapidly growing share of the population. They will earn a loyalty that the youth market, by its very nature, cannot offer. So, let me leave you with this. The world loves to chase youth. It always has. And some ways, it always will. But the real treasure, the deeper wealth, the deeper wisdom, the deeper capacity to spend, to decide, and to remain loyal lies in maturity. To every marketer, every event planner, every business owner listening, the 50-plus generation is not a market you need to discover. We have been here the whole time. We have resources. We're here with refinement and remarkable stories. We're not asking to be pitied or patronized. We're asking to be seen and paid attention to in the way our buying power and our loyalty have earned. And to everyone in the anchor leg listening right now, know this. You have earned your joy. Spend it where you are celebrated, not sidelined. Some of you are retired, but you're not tired. Some of you are just getting started on the chapter that matters most. That's what the Semaj MindSpa is about. Remember, the best is yet to come. I'm Dr. Leahcim Semaj. Till we meet again. Enjoy and do have some fun, because the best is yet to come.